Ever since my first job cooking in a high-end steakhouse, I've been on a mission to unlock the secret of pan-searing a steak. Cooking with a beef tallow is part of that secret.
So when you're at the store picking out a New York strip, you want to choose one that is center cut. If it's not center cut, then it's going to have a connective tissue that runs through the middle of it. It's chewy, it's tough, it's not very pleasant to eat. The cool thing about pan searing a steak is that you can get a beautiful pan sauce to go with, which I'll go into detail further in the video. So first thing you want to do is pat the steak dry, and then using half of a teaspoon of kosher salt, you want to sprinkle both sides of the steak with the salt. This is technically called a dry brine, and we're going to let this dry brine while the steak comes up to room temperature about 45 minutes. The thing that dry brining does is it seasons the steak, and depending on how long you let it dry brine for, it can also help tenderize it. Now when it comes time to cook the steak, I warm up a cast iron pan over medium-high heat. We're going to be cooking this with beef tallow, and we're going to flavor the tallow with a little bit of garlic and sage as well. Heat the pan up until it is literally starting to smoke, and then drop in the tallow. The tallow has a high enough smoke point that's going to be able to handle this high heat. The pan is going to be warmed up about 400 degrees at this point in time. Redder the fat cap on the New York strip first. I tend to do this for about 20 to 30 seconds. This is going to help extract some more tallow. Now lay the New York strip down onto the first side, and I like to press it down slightly with a spatula and use a pair of tongs. It's going to help get full contact on the pan. Let this rip on the first side for about a minute. You want to make sure that there's plenty of fat in the pan. If needed, drop in some more tallow. After that minute, you should get a nice beautiful crust on there. That is what you want. That is flavor. That is beautiful. Pan sear it on the second side for an additional minute, lightly pressing it down once again to get full contact on the pan. Be very careful with this because hot oil can splatter on your hands. After about 30 seconds, what I like to do is drop in the sage, drop in the garlic, and let those ingredients shallow pan fry in that oil for about 10 seconds. Next up, kill the heat and then baste the top of the steak with that tallow. I'm putting the sage and the garlic on top of the steak, and I'm basting that hot oil on the steak. This is going to help perfume the steak and give it flavor. The pan's going to have enough residual heat in it to cook the steak the rest of the way through. Pull the steak, put the steak on a plate, and then top the steak with the garlic and the sage and that rendered tallow, and let that rest on the countertop 5 to 7 minutes. A cool chef secret is making a pan sauce in the same pan that you just got done cooking the steak in. We have more than enough time to make this sauce while that steak rests. Ingredients are parmesan cheese, garlic, shallot, and then for the body of the sauce, I'm using heavy cream with a little acidic note using apple cider vinegar. First thing I want to do is cut the root end off the garlic, remove the outer paper layer, and give it a fine mince. All the vegetable scraps that I get today, I'm going to toss into the compost. Same way as I cut the garlic, with the shallot you want to cut it into a fine mince. Using the same pan, turn the heat on medium-low heat. Utilizing that oil that's in the pan, drop in the shallots and give the shallots a pinch of salt. The salt will put out beautiful flavor that shallots have. Sweat the shallots down for about a minute or until they start to turn translucent, stirring frequently. As the shallots are sweating down, they're going to pull up some of that brown flavor that's on the bottom of the pan. Add a little bit of butter to the shallots. Drop in the garlic and cook the rawness off the garlic. This generally takes about 1 minute. Once the rawness is cooked off the garlic, add the heavy cream. From here, I crank up the heat to medium-high and let this reduce. Essentially, that means you're going to evaporate the water content out of it by simmering it. Season the sauce with some freshly cracked black pepper and a light pinch of kosher salt. Be easy on the salt because we're going to add parmesan to this later, and parmesan cheese has salt content in it. Continue to simmer the sauce to reduce it. What I'm looking for is the way that it simmers, the bubbles become thicker and more vigorous, and I'm also looking for a slight change in color on the cream. Give the sauce a taste and adjust seasoning as necessary, although it shouldn't really need any more salt because, like I said, we're going to add parmesan cheese at the end. When the sauce is ready, it's going to leave a streak on the bottom of the pan that'll hold its shape for about half of a second. At this point, I kill the heat and add the apple cider vinegar and stir it in. What the apple cider vinegar does is it helps pull all the flavors together. It helps round the flavors out, if you will. You want to add just enough apple cider vinegar to the sauce where it helps flavor the sauce, but you don't want to have the flavor come through. Let the sauce cool slightly for about a minute, and at this point in time you want to grate in the Parmesan cheese. I'm using my Microplane zester to finally grate the cheese into it. If you don't have one, then go ahead and use a cheese grater that has a fine grate on it. I'm grating in about a half of an ounce worth of Parmesan cheese. Stir the cheese into the sauce to fully melt it in. Now that the steak is fully rested, I'm cutting around the bone, and then I'm cutting the steak into some servable slices. If the sauce looks like it's gotten a little too thick after adding the cheese, then you could go ahead and add just a little touch of heavy cream and stir it in until you get a consistency that you want. I love serving the steak with a nice heavy coating of the sauce that we just made and serving it with some crispy crushed potatoes, which is the recipe card that you're seeing on the screen right now.